In this video, we are going to discuss about the middle cranial fossa. So you can see here this is the middle cranial fossa. Of course, the middle cranial fossa is also divided into the median part and the lateral part. So first, of course, we'll start with the median part of the middle cranial fossa. So if you see the middle cranial fossa, it is deeper than the anterior cranial fossa. Clearly you can see anterior cranial fossa is somewhat elevated, but the middle cranial fossa is more deeper, and it is like a butterfly shape. It is very narrow, shallow in the middle, and if you see, it is wide and deep on each side. Okay, so now coming to the boundaries. So the anterior boundary is formed by the posterior border of lesser wing of sphenoid, and also by anterior clinoid processes, and also by the anterior margin of sulcus chiasmatus. So these are forming the anterior boundary. Now coming to the posterior boundary, it is formed by superior border of teres part of temporal bone, and also by the dorsum sellae of sphenoid. This is the dorsum sellae of sphenoid. You can see it clearly, dorsum sellae. So these are forming the posterior boundary. Now coming to the lateral boundary, if you see on the lateral side, there is the greater wing of sphenoid, and also there is the anterior inferior angle of parietal bone here side, anterior inferior angle of parietal bone, and also the squamous temporal bone. This is the squamous temporal bone. So these are forming the lateral boundaries. So coming to the floor of middle cranial fossa is formed by body of sphenoid. This is the body of sphenoid in the median region, and by greater wing of sphenoid in the side region, and also the squamous temporal bone, and also the anterior surface of teres temporal bone. So these are forming the lateral sides of the floor of middle cranial fossa. Now let us discuss the median area in detail. So if you observe the median area in detail, the median area is having a sulcus chiasmaticus. This is the sulcus chiasmaticus, also called as optic groove, it is leading to the optic groove on each side, which will open into the optic canal. You can see here it is written optic canal, which will open into the on the orbit side. Okay, so this is a optic canal, and coming to the optic canal, it will lead to the orbit. It is bounded laterally by lesser wing of sphenoid, and in front and behind by two roots of lesser wing, that is anterior root, posterior root of lesser wing, and medially by body of sphenoid. So these are the boundaries of optic canal. Now coming to the sella turcica, this region is exactly called as sella turcica or pituitary fossa, or also you can call it as hypophyseal fossa, as you can see here. So here is where our hypophysis cerebri lies. Actually, it is in the upper surface of body of sphenoid, which is hollow out in the form of Turkish saddle, and it is known as sella turcica. It consists of tuberculum sellae in front, and hypophyseal fossa, of course, it is present, and also there is tuberculum sellae in front and hypophyseal fossa in middle, and dorsum sellae behind. Okay, now coming to tuberculum sellae, which separates the optic groove from the hypophyseal fossa. Its lateral ends form the middle clinoid process. So actually here forms the middle clinoid process. As this is the anterior clinoid process, dorsum sellae will form the posterior clinoid process. Okay, so the middle clinoid process, which may join the anterior clinoid process here. Now coming to the hypophyseal fossa, it lodges hypophyseal cerebri. Beneath the floor of fossa lie the sphenoidal air sinuses. The dorsum sellae, it is transverse plate of bone projecting upward. It forms the back of saddle. The superior lateral angles of dorsum sellae expanded to form the posterior clinoid process. So these are the anterior clinoid, these are the posterior clinoid, and the middle clinoid will be here. Anterior clinoid process formed by lesser wing of sphenoid bone. Middle clinoid process formed by tuberculum sellae. Posterior clinoid process formed by dorsum sellae. So this is important to remember. Now coming to the lateral area. So we have completed the median area. Now we'll see the lateral area in detail. The lateral area is deep, and it lodges the temporal lobe of the brain. It is related anteriorly to the orbit, and laterally to the temporal fossa, and inferiorly to infratemporal fossa. So the superior orbital fissure, you can see here, this opens Okay, anteriorly into orbit, it is bounded above by lesser wing, below by greater wing, medially by body of sphenoid. Okay, and the medial end is wider than the lateral end. The long axis of fissure is directed laterally upwards and forwards. The lower border is marked by a small projection which provides attachment of common tendinous ring of Zinn, and this ring divides the fissure into three parts. Actually, this superior orbital fissure is divided into three parts by means of one ring that is called as common tendinous ring of Zinn. Now coming to the greater wing, you can see this is all the greater wing of sphenoid. The greater wing of sphenoid presents with a foramen rotundum. You can see here this is a foramen rotundum. It leads anteriorly to pterygopalatine fossa containing pterygopalatine ganglia. So pterygopalatine ganglia is present in foramen rotundum. So foramen ovale. Foramen ovale lies posterior lateral to foramen rotundum and lateral to the lingula. It leads inferiorly to infratemporal fossa. Coming to foramen spinosum, it is lying posterior lateral to the foramen ovale. It also leads inferiorly to infratemporal fossa. Now coming to emissary sphenoidal foramen or foramen vessalius. Sometimes it is present and it will carry the emissary vein. Coming to foramen lacerum. This is the foramen lacerum, lies at the posterior end of carotid groove, posterior medial to foramen ovale. Posterior medial to foramen ovale. Okay. So now coming to the anterior surface of teres temporal bone. What are its peculiarities? So it has having a trigeminal impression. This one is called trigeminal impression, which is near the apex behind the foramen lacerum. It lodges the trigeminal ganglion within its dural cave. Now coming to hiatus and groove for greater pterosal nerve. It is present lateral to trigeminal impression. They lead to foramen lacerum. This one. Okay. Now coming to hiatus and groove for lesser pterosal nerve. Lie lateral to hiatus for greater pterosal nerve. So just lateral to it, this one. Okay. And lead to foramen ovale or canaculus innominatus to relay in aortic ganglion. Next coming to still more lateral, there is arcuate eminence. So this one is called as arcuate eminence. The arcuate eminence is produced by superior semicircular canal. So this whole structure is called tegmen tympani. It's a thin plate of bone anterior lateral to arcuate eminence. It forms continuous sloping roof for tympanic antrum, for tympanic cavity, for canal of tensa tympani. And next coming to lateral margin of tegmen tympani. The lateral margin is downwards, forms lateral wall of bony auditory tube. Now coming to lower edge, it is seen in squamotympanic fissure and squamotympanic when between this one and this one. Squamotympanic fissure and divides into squamous and pterotympanic fissure. Next coming to cerebral surface of squamous temporal bone. So squamous temporal bone having a cerebral surface and grooves for branches of middle meningeal vessels. So finally coming to the clinical anatomy of the middle cranial fossa. Fracture of middle cranial fossa will produce bleeding and discharge of CSF through ear. So if anterior cranial fossa will damage, then there will be bleeding through nose. If middle cranial fossa damaged, it will be bleeding through ears. That is the CSF discharge by ears. So bleeding through nose or mouth may occur due to involvement of sphenoid bone. 7th and 8th cranial nerves may be damaged. If the fracture also pass through internal acoustic meatus, if a semicircular canal is damaged, then even vertigo may occur. So this is all about middle cranial fossa. In next video, we will talk about posterior cranial fossa.